Coincidence number 1. Lincoln and Kennedy. Abraham Lincoln, elected president 1860. John F. Kennedy, elected president 1960, exactly 100 years apart. That's interesting, but not impossible. Elections happen every 4 years. Eventually, 2 presidents will be elected a century apart. But the parallels don't stop there. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy. Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Both secretaries warned their president not to go to the place where they were assassinated. Neither president listened. Both presidents were assassinated on a Friday. Both were shot in the head from behind. Both were with their wives. Both wives were present when their husbands died. Lincoln was shot in Ford's theater. Kennedy was shot in a Ford Lincoln, made by Ford Motor Company. Both assassins were known by 3 names: John Wilkes Booth, Lee Harvey Oswald. Both names contain 15 letters. Both assassins were Southerners. Both were killed before trial. Booth shot Lincoln in a theater and fled to a warehouse. Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and fled to a theater. Lincoln's successor was Andrew Johnson, born 1808. Kennedy's successor was Lyndon Johnson, born 1908, exactly 100 years apart. Both successors were named Johnson. Both were Southern Democrats. Both were in the Senate. The parallels continue beyond the presidents themselves. Lincoln had a dream about his assassination 1 week before it happened. Kennedy spoke about assassination risks in the weeks before Dallas. Both presidents were deeply involved in civil rights. Lincoln with slavery abolition, Kennedy with civil rights legislation. Both faced enormous resistance from Southern states. The weeks before their deaths, both expressed unusual premonitions. Both seemed to sense something coming. Here's what makes this impossible. Each individual coincidence might be explainable, but the accumulation of specific matches across so many dimensions defies probability. Elected exactly 100 years apart. Secretaries with swapped names. Assassinated on Fridays. Shot in the head. Successors named Johnson, born 100 years apart. Assassins with 15-letter 3-part names killed before trial. Calculate the odds. 2 presidents elected a century apart. Possible. Add the secretaries' names. Improbable. Add the assassination details. Very improbable. Add the successors. Extremely improbable. Add the assassins. Impossibly improbable. Each detail multiplies the unlikelihood. By the time you account for everything, you're looking at odds of millions or billions to 1. Coincidence? Or does history repeat itself with impossible precision for reasons we don't understand? Coincidence number 2. Edgar Allan Poe's Richard Parker, 1838. Edgar Allan Poe published his only complete novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. A horror story about a whaling ship disaster. In the novel, a ship sinks. 4 survivors drift in a lifeboat, starving. They draw straws to determine who will be killed and eaten so the others can survive. The cabin boy loses. His name is Richard Parker. He's killed and cannibalized. It's a fictional horror story. Disturbing but imaginary. 46 years later, 1884, a real ship sank. The Mignonette, a yacht sailing from England to Australia. 4 survivors drifted in a lifeboat, starving. After 19 days, 3 crew members killed and ate the 4th to survive. The victim was the cabin boy. His name was Richard Parker, the real Richard Parker, killed and eaten, just like Poe's fictional Richard Parker 46 years earlier. Same situation, ship disaster, 4 survivors in lifeboat, starvation, decision to kill and eat cabin boy. Same name, Richard Parker. When the Mignonette survivors were rescued and the story emerged, people noticed the Poe connection immediately. How did Poe know? How did he write about a cabin boy named Richard Parker being killed and eaten in a lifeboat, and then it happened in reality decades later with the exact same name? Poe died in 1849, 35 years before the Mignonette disaster. He couldn't have heard about it. It hadn't happened yet. He created the story from imagination. But here's what makes it more impossible. Richard Parker wasn't a common name. It's not like naming a character John Smith and having a real John Smith die in similar circumstances. Richard Parker is an unusual name combination. The odds of Poe randomly choosing that name, placing him as a cabin boy on a doomed ship in a lifeboat where he's killed and eaten, and then 46 years later, a real cabin boy with that exact name dying in that exact situation, are astronomical. Some argue Poe heard a story about an earlier maritime disaster, that maybe there was a previous Richard Parker who died at sea, and that influenced both Poe's fiction and the Mignonette crew's actions. But no evidence of such a story exists. The coincidence stands. Poe wrote it. Decades later, it happened. Same name, same situation, same horrific outcome. Coincidence number 3. Anthony Hopkins and the Girl from Petrovka, 1973. Actor Anthony Hopkins was cast in a film adaptation of The Girl from Petrovka by George Pfeiffer. Hopkins wanted to research the role. He needed to read the book. He went to London bookstores. None had it in stock. Later that day, Hopkins was at Leicester Square tube station, waiting for his train. He found a book lying on a bench. Someone had left it behind. The Girl from Petrovka by George Pfeiffer. The exact book he needed. Just sitting there, in a city of millions. The one book he was looking for. That's already an impressive coincidence. But it gets stranger. Months later, Hopkins was on set filming. George Pfeiffer, the author, visited. They met. Hopkins mentioned finding the book on the tube station bench. Pfeiffer said that was impossible. Not unlikely. Impossible. Pfeiffer explained that he'd given his personal annotated copy to a friend. That friend lost it in London. That specific copy, with Pfeiffer's handwritten notes in the margins, was gone. Pfeiffer had looked for it, but never found it. He assumed it was lost forever. Hopkins went to his dressing room, brought back the book, showed it to Pfeiffer. It was Pfeiffer's copy, with his handwritten notes, the one his friend lost, the one Pfeiffer thought was gone forever. Hopkins had found the author's personal annotated copy sitting on a tube station bench on the exact day he needed that specific book. Let's calculate this coincidence. Hopkins needs a rare book, can't find it in stores. Later that day, walks through a tube station in a city of 8 million people. Finds a copy of that exact book on a bench. Already improbable, but it's not just any copy. It's the author's personal copy, with his unique annotations, lost by someone else weeks earlier, found by Hopkins on the day he was looking for it, in a random location in a massive city. The odds of losing a book and having it found by the one person who specifically needs that title on that day are incalculable. Add that it's the author's personal copy with unique markings, and you're beyond coincidence into apparent design. Coincidence number 4. Violet Jessop and the Olympic-class ships. Violet Jessop was a ship stewardess. She worked on ocean liners in the early 1900s. 3 specific ships. All 3 experienced major disasters. She survived all 3. September 1911. Violet was working on RMS Olympic. The Olympic collided with British warship HMS Hawke. Serious damage to both vessels. Olympic barely made it back to port. Violet survived unharmed. April 1912. Violet transferred to RMS Olympic's sister ship, RMS Titanic, the Titanic's maiden voyage. On April 15th, the Titanic hit an iceberg, sank. Over 1,500 people died. Violet was ordered into Lifeboat 16. She survived. Rescued by RMS Carpathia, one of the minority who lived through the disaster. After surviving the Titanic, most people would avoid ships. Violet went back to sea. November 1916. World War I. Violet was working as a nurse on HMHS Britannic, the 3rd Olympic-class sister ship. Titanic, Olympic, Britannic. All 3 sisters. The Britannic hit a mine in the Aegean Sea, or was torpedoed. The explosion was catastrophic. The ship sank in 55 minutes, faster than the Titanic. Violet got into a lifeboat, but the ship was still moving. The lifeboat was sucked into the Britannic's massive propellers. Still spinning, the lifeboat was smashed. Violet was pulled underwater, hit her head, survived. climbed onto floating wreckage, was rescued. 3 sister ships, all 3 suffered major maritime disasters. Violet Jessop was on all 3, survived all 3. The Olympic collision, the Titanic sinking, the Britannic explosion and sinking. 3 separate disasters, 3 separate survivals. Violet lived until 1971. Age 83, died of heart failure, on land. After surviving 3 of the most famous maritime disasters in history. The odds of being on one doomed ship, low but possible. The odds of being on 2, very improbable. The odds of being on all 3 Olympic-class ships during their disasters and surviving all 3. Impossible. The Olympic class consisted of 3 ships, all 3 had disasters. 1 woman was on all 3. And lived. That's not random distribution of probability. That's a pattern that seems designed. Violet called herself unsinkable. She joked that God was keeping her alive for a reason. After the 3rd survival, it was hard to argue. Some people seem marked by disaster, but protected through it. Violet Jessop was on every major doomed ship of her era, and walked away every time. Coincidence, or was she meant to witness and survive these events? Coincidence number 5. The Hoover Dam deaths. December 21st, 1922. J.G. Tierney was surveying sites for the Boulder Canyon project. What would become Hoover Dam? He was on the Colorado River. His boat capsized. He drowned. J.G. Tierney was the first person to die during the Hoover Dam project. December 20th, 1922. Wait, I said 21st. Let me correct that. December 20th, 1922. Hoover Dam construction began officially in 1931. Continued until 1936. Massive project, dangerous work. 96 men died during construction. Falls, accidents, heat stroke, drowning, industrial disasters. December 20th, 1935. The last official death during Hoover Dam construction. Patrick Tierney fell from an intake tower. Died, Patrick Tierney, son of J.G. Tierney, the man who drowned in 1922 before construction even began. First death, J.G. Tierney, December 20th, 1922. Last death, Patrick Tierney, his son, December 20th, 1935. Exactly 13 years apart. Same date. Father and son. First and last deaths of the entire project. This is documented. Official records. J.G. Tierney died December 20th, 1922, during initial surveys. Patrick Tierney died December 20th, 1935, during final construction. Both deaths connected to Hoover Dam. Father and son. Same calendar date. 13 years apart. The project killed 96 men over 14 years. The first death and the last death were father and son, on the same calendar date, 13 years apart. Calculate those odds. The project lasted 14 years, 365 days per year, 5,110 days total, 96 deaths distributed across those days. The probability of any 2 specific deaths occurring on the same calendar date in different years, already low. The probability of those 2 deaths being father and son, astronomically lower. The probability of them being the first and last deaths of the entire project, impossible. Yet it happened. Documented. Verified. Father dies starting the project. Son dies finishing it. Same date, 13 years apart. First and last deaths. Some workers believed the dam was cursed, that it demanded a specific sacrifice, father and son, opening and closing the construction with their blood. Superstition maybe, but the coincidence is real. Coincidence number 6. Anne Parrish and the Jack Frost Book, 1920. American writer Anne Parrish was in Paris with her husband. They were browsing used bookstores along the Seine. Anne found a children's book, Jack Frost and Other Stories. She recognized it. She'd loved this book as a child, growing up in Colorado, reading it over and over. She hadn't seen a copy in years. She showed her husband. I loved this book when I was little. He took it from her, opened the cover, looked at the inscription page, written inside, Anne Parrish, 209 North Weber Street, Colorado Springs. Her childhood copy, her name, her childhood address, written in her own child handwriting, the specific book she'd owned as a girl in Colorado, in a used bookstore in Paris. 20 years later, thousands of miles from where she'd lost it. Her exact copy, not another printing, not the same edition. Her personal book, with her name inscribed, that had somehow traveled from Colorado to Paris and was sitting in a bookshop on the exact day she walked in. Looking at children's books, nostalgic for her childhood, the odds of losing a book and finding it years later, already low. The odds of finding it in a foreign country, very low. The odds of finding it on the exact day you happen to be browsing that specific bookshop while thinking about your childhood, impossible. How did Anne Parrish's childhood book get from Colorado to Paris? Who owned it in between? How many hands did it pass through? How many bookstores? What route did it take? And of all the days it could have been in that shop, and all the days Anne could have visited Paris, and all the bookshops she could have entered, she walked into the right shop on the right day and picked up her own book from 20 years earlier. This is documented. Anne Parrish was a well-known author. She told this story many times. Her husband confirmed it. The book with her inscription existed. The coincidence was real. It's as if the book was waiting for her, as if the universe arranged for her childhood possession to travel thousands of miles and be there the exact moment she would find it. A message from her past self, a reminder of childhood, delivered across time and space with impossible precision. Some coincidences feel meaningful even if we can't explain why. Finding your own childhood book in a foreign country decades later seems like the universe trying to tell you something, even if we don't know what. Coincidence number 7. Twin strangers, Jim Lewis and Jim Springer, 1940. Twin boys born in Ohio, separated at birth, adopted by different families. Neither knew about the other. They grew up 38 miles apart, never meeting, never knowing they had a twin. Both families, by coincidence, named their adopted son James. Jim, 1979, age 39. The twins discovered each other existed. They met, and discovered their lives had been impossibly parallel. Both were named James. Both went by Jim. Both adopted families, independently, chose the same name. Both had childhood dogs named Toy. Different dogs, different families, same unusual name. Both married women named Linda. Both divorced. Both remarried women named Betty. Different Lindas, different Bettys. Same names in same order. Both had sons. Jim Lewis named his son James Allan. Jim Springer named his son James Allan. Same name. Different spelling of the middle name by one letter. Both worked part-time as sheriffs. Both worked at McDonald's in their youth. Both had jobs in gas stations. Similar career paths chosen independently. Both drove Chevrolets. Same make, different times. Same brand preference. Both took family vacations to the same beach in Florida. Passed within driving beach. Different years. Same specific beach. Both bit their nails. Both suffered migraine headaches. Both gained and lost weight at the same times in their lives. Same physical patterns. Both built circular white benches around trees in their yards. Same unusual DIY project. Neither knew the other had done it. Both had basement workshops. Both enjoyed mechanical drawing and carpentry. Same hobbies developed independently. The list continues. Over and over, dozens of specific matches. Names, wives' names, children's names, pets' names, jobs, vacation spots, habits, projects, health issues. These were separated twins. No contact. Raised in different families, different towns. They never communicated. Never knew each other existed until age 39. Yet their lives followed identical patterns, as if they were living the same life in parallel, as if they were following a script, making the same choices independently, experiencing the same events. Geneticists studied them. The Jim twins became famous in twin studies. Researchers tried to determine how much was genetic versus environmental. But even genetics doesn't explain wives named Linda then Betty. Sons named James Allan/Allan. Dogs named Toy. Vacation beach choices. Circular white benches around trees. Those are cultural and personal choices, not genetic traits, yet both twins made them. Independently, without contact, as if their lives were predetermined, as if they were following the same blueprint. Separated twins often show similarities, but the Jim twins exceeded normal twin coincidences. They weren't just similar, they were living nearly identical lives, making identical choices, creating identical circumstances. It's as if there's only one life plan for them, and separation didn't change it. They followed the same path despite being apart, as if destiny was stronger than environment. Coincidence number 8. Tamerlane's Curse, June 1941. Soviet archaeologists opened the tomb of Timur, known as Tamerlane, a Turco-Mongol conqueror who died in 1405. The tomb was in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, sealed for 536 years. Warnings were inscribed inside. "Whosoever disturbs my tomb will unleash an invader more terrible than I." Local legends said opening the tomb would bring disaster. The Soviet team dismissed superstition. They were scientists. They opened the tomb, June 20th, 1941. 2 days later, June 22nd, 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, the largest military invasion in history, 4 million Axis troops, along an 1,800-mile front. Within weeks, millions of Soviets were dead, the most devastating invasion in Soviet history. An invader more terrible than I. The curse inscription. 2 days after the tomb opened, Soviet authorities noticed. They connected the dates. They ordered Tamerlane's remains given a full Islamic burial, with honors, respecting the traditions, apologizing for the disturbance. November 1942. Tamerlane was properly reburied, with traditional Islamic rites, respecting the dead. Days later, the Battle of Stalingrad turned. Soviet forces began their counteroffensive. November 19, 1942. The turning point of the Eastern Front, the beginning of Nazi Germany's defeat. The tomb opened, June 20th, 1941. Invasion started, June 22nd. 2 days later, the tomb reconsecrated, November 1942. Soviet counteroffensive, November 19th. The same month. Open the tomb, invasion begins. Honor the tomb, tide turns. Perfect correlation. Coincidence? Probably. Nazi invasion planning took months. Hitler didn't decide to invade because a tomb opened in Uzbekistan. The timing was unrelated. The war's turning point had strategic causes, not supernatural ones. But the correlation is exact. The dates line up impossibly well. It's as if Tamerlane's warning was literal. Disturb my rest, unleash an invader. Respect my rest, turn the tide. The Soviet archaeologists believed it. They insisted on the proper reburial. They treated it seriously. Even communist authorities, officially atheist, ordered traditional Islamic honors. They weren't taking chances. Sometimes coincidences are so precisely timed, they seem causal even when logic says they can't be. The mind sees pattern, looks for meaning, creates narrative. But 2 days. The tomb opens, and 2 days later, the largest invasion in history begins against that country. Then the tide turns, the same month the remains are honored. Even skeptics find that timing remarkable. Coincidence number 9. The hotel bombing survivor. This coincidence involves a man who survived multiple bombing attacks through timing so precise it seems designed. A man, identity kept private, was at the World Trade Center during the 1993 bombing. February 26, 1993. Truck bomb in the North Tower parking garage. 6 killed. Over 1,000 injured. The man survived. Left New York shortly after. He moved to Oklahoma City. Got a job in the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. April 19, 1995. Timothy McVeigh's truck bomb destroyed the building. 168 killed. The man was late to work that morning. Missed being in the building. Survived again. After Oklahoma City, he left the United States. moved to London, visited the city regularly. July 7, 2005. He was near Tavistock Square. The 7/7 London bombings, 4 coordinated suicide attacks, 52 killed, over 700 injured. The man had left Tavistock Square minutes before the bus bomb, survived again. 3 major terrorist bombings, 3 different countries, over 12 years. Same person present at all 3, survived all 3, through timing, being late, leaving early, missing the exact moment by minutes. The odds of being at 1 terrorist attack, extremely low. The odds of being at 2, astronomically low. The odds of being at 3 major attacks in different countries and surviving all 3, incalculable. Either this person was incredibly unlucky to be near so many attacks, or incredibly lucky to survive each one. Or something was protecting him, or guiding him, or he's lying about all of it, and the story is urban legend. I've tried to verify this account. News reports from the time don't name this person. But the story circulates widely. People claim it's true, others say it's fabricated. Real or fabricated, the story illustrates something about impossible coincidence. If it happened, it's beyond probability. If someone invented it, they invented it because we recognize that such coincidences, while possible, feel designed. Whether this specific case is true, other documented cases exist. People who survive multiple disasters, who miss flights that crash, who arrive late when buildings explode, whose timing is so consistently fortunate it seems guided. Coincidence? Or is something protecting certain people, moving them out of danger, ensuring their survival through impossible timing? Coincidence number 10. Enzo Ferrari and Ozil. Enzo Ferrari died August 14, 1988, founder of Ferrari Automobiles, iconic Italian industrialist and racing team founder. Age 90. Approximately 1 month later, September 24, 1988, Mesut Ozil was born. German professional footballer, future Arsenal and Real Madrid player. Why is this significant? Look at photographs. Enzo Ferrari in his later years. Mesut Ozil as an adult. The facial resemblance is striking. Same eye shape, same facial structure, same expression. They look remarkably similar. The internet noticed. Memes proliferated. Enzo Ferrari died and was reincarnated as Mesut Ozil. Side-by-side photos. The resemblance is undeniable. Is it coincidence? Yes. Obviously. Physical resemblance between unrelated people happens. We're all human. We share facial features. Finding 2 people who look alike isn't supernatural. But the timing. Ferrari dies. Weeks later, Ozil is born. And they look similar enough to be relatives. And both achieved fame in different fields. Ferrari in automobiles and racing. Ozil in football. If you believed in reincarnation, this would be textbook. Famous person dies. New person born shortly after. They look alike. Both achieve success and fame. Different fields, but both become icons. Purely coincidental? Certainly. But the coincidence is striking enough to notice, striking enough to generate worldwide memes, striking enough that even skeptics pause and look at the photos and think, that's weird. Sometimes coincidences don't mean anything but create meaning anyway. The Ferrari-Ozil resemblance doesn't prove reincarnation, doesn't prove anything, but it's the kind of coincidence that makes people wonder, that creates stories, that feels meaningful even if it isn't. It reminds us that reality produces patterns we don't expect, that faces repeat, that timing aligns in ways that feel significant, that the universe creates coincidences that seem designed even when they're random.